Keep your online purchases safe with privacy.com. Join at the link in the description and get $5 for free just for signing up. What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Recently, Riot released a new updated list for some of the upcoming reworks for League of Legends that they're talking about and planning. Now these aren't reworks that they've actually started on, but it's the ones that they're expecting to work on in the far out future. With the announcement of Mordekaiser's upcoming reworks, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what else Riot has in store for us. And specifically, Riot Reeve 3 actually announced an updated list of a whole bunch of champions, which includes a whole bunch of new champions, as well as the removal of some previously considered ones for what the upcoming reworks that Riot is planning are. So the first thing to mention is that they actually removed Kennen, Kog'Maw, and Amumu from previous lists of planned reworks from about a year ago. And to be honest, it does kind of make sense because maybe those champions could be improved from reworks, but I don't think I could say that they're the most in need when compared to some of the other champions that we're going to talk about today. And as a side note, these champions are in no particular order, and when each of these reworks actually gets released is completely unknown and definitely is pretty hard to predict. And this is something that, some of these reworks might not even get released for many years. So first up, one of the new additions to the list, we actually have Shyvana and the plans to rework her. So the thing about Shyvana is that she's definitely a really cool champion with a particularly awesome theme, and she's a unique character with a pretty unique niche in terms of gameplay, but her passive is generally underwhelming and her abilities can be a little bit boring at times. Her entire theme is built around her dragon bloodline, but securing 4 different elemental drakes only rewards you with 25 bonus armor and some magic resistance. Not really worth it considering her overarching theme. I think reworking Shyvana would definitely mean building her kit from the ground up to further emphasize and really push hard on her dragon themed abilities. It could definitely be a pretty exciting one, and since it's one of the new additions to the list, it's maybe one of the more likely candidates that could happen in the future. Next up, there is also a very small mention to Vladimir. So the thing about Vladimir is that he actually has a very special place in Riot Reeve 3's heart apparently. He is his personal favorite champion in League of Legends. Reeve 3 said himself that he'd like to see Vlad become the true hot gothic rock star that he is, and design a kit around really supporting that. He however doesn't need it as badly as other champions, and Riot Reeve 3 said that he would rather wait to do a bigger, full visual gameplay update for Vladimir in the future, when he's in a position that he needs it more desperately than he does now, so the Vladimir rework, if it does happen, is not going to be anytime soon. Following the small mention of Vladimir, we're going back to some of our previously confirmed picks, and it's actually Corki right up there. So Corki's been in quite a particular spot ever since his major changes that had him kind of fighting over being an AD carry and now a mid laner, and his theme of being this cool Yordle pilot has kind of gone downhill honestly. Riot's rework will probably most likely focus on redesigning his theme and placing more emphasis on his rockets and flight mechanic and just his overall intricacies as a character. During the Marksman rework, we kind of saw this with the addition of his care packages and the way he can deploy them flying through the air and doing all sorts of cool stuff with it. Hate it or love it, it is definitely a pretty unique mechanic that pushed his theme in an interesting direction, and I would definitely expect to see Riot doing more of this kind of thing in the next major rework for him, as well as correcting his kit to push players and builds back to either specifically the bot lane as an AD carry, or specifically as a mid lane, and not really being kind of stuck in limbo as he has been. Next up we have Dr. Mundo. Now this is definitely no surprise, he's definitely one of the champions in the game that's kind of just a lost relic of the past, of a character that was released in the beta of League of Legends that kind of just never really received updates, and as a result, the age is starting to show. I guess one of the interesting things about Dr. Mundo is that his gameplay design isn't really that bad, it's kind of just fine really. His kit can be a little bit boring, and definitely has a lot more room for improvement for interesting interactions and new abilities in general. They could definitely push really hard on it, and overall Dr. Mundo is a character that I think probably has one of the most in terms of room for improvement of the champions on this list today. And next up we have Cho'Gath, and Cho'Gath is in a very similar state to Dr. Mundo. He's not particularly bad, he's just kind of like a relic of past design, of a character that was released in the beta, never really received any major updates since, and as a result is just really outdated at this point. And if they did decide to rework Cho'Gath, I think they would definitely try to push much harder on his theme and try to redesign the character to fit the theme in a much more cohesive sense. And the theme of characters when it comes to creating champion reworks in League of Legends is definitely, well, a pretty big theme. There was a time when League of Legends reworks were never really that great, and I think when they started focusing a lot more on redesigning the theme of characters, they were at least able to create competent champions that are able to stand tall against the standards of the new champions that they're releasing today. Anyway, Cho'Gath rework is definitely something that could be pretty cool. They'll probably maintain like his eating mechanic and the growth thing and maybe redesign it around that, or just being like this tanky void monster kind of thing, there's a lot of room to work with there for sure. Another character that Riot is also planning a rework for is Fiddlesticks. Now, Fiddlesticks is a pretty interesting champion, actually the first champion I ever played in League of Legends. I've always got a special place in my heart for Fiddlesticks, but he does have a very basic and kind of just lackluster kit and has begun pretty outdated, and the fact that he's kind of like a support champion now has just been so weird, and he doesn't really like fit anywhere in the game. You know, he's kind of a support, he can jungle, sort of, and maybe he can solo lane, not really. You know, his gameplay's in like it just lacks focus, you know, lacks that clarity that a champion really needs to excel in a certain position. And there's definitely a lot that Riot could do with Fiddlesticks, and he's probably the character, I would say, I think, arguably the character that deserves a rework the most on this list today. Next up, we've actually got Nocturne, which is a pretty interesting champion. And the thing with Nocturne is that he has a really amazing theme that's like very easy to design for, but at the same time he has very basic and kind of boring abilities on the rest of his kit apart from his ultimate. So he's in a little bit of an interesting spot where, although he might not deserve a rework as much as the other champions on this list, because his theme is so strong and cohesive already, it kind of puts him in a spot where creating a rework for Nocturne is actually going to be probably very easy for Riot to just design a new set of basic abilities around his theme a lot more, to bring his lore and his kit a lot closer together. So it's actually a rework that I would expect to see sooner rather than later, simply because it's one that I think Riot's going to have a pretty easy time actually creating, unlike some of the other characters here. Following that same idea, we also have Pantheon. Now his ultimate is pretty iconic, but his point and click style gameplay is definitely, you know, could use some improvement for sure. His design is pretty outdated, but he still reasonably holds up, and his theme is definitely pretty cool and at least is very clear, you know, it's cohesive. I could definitely see Riot retaining his ultimate as well as his spear throwing and his stun, but kind of like redesigning them to be on his kit still, but in just very different ways. Pantheon's a super cool Spartan character, and he's got an amazing setup to be a crazy awesome fighter in the top lane. And I'm pretty sure that Riot will just design any new kit that he gets around this concept heavily. Now, fun fact, Pantheon actually had a rework in progress previously when Riot was making the Diver class rework that actually got cancelled and never released. So perhaps it's something that they've been working on and we could get in the near future. Rammus is also on the list as well, and this is one that I'm particularly excited for. You know, Rammus is a pretty cool and unique character, but at the same time kind of basic. You know, he just rolls around, he's this little spike ball, kind of just ganks lanes and does stuff. But there's definitely a lot of room for improvement in his gameplay. You know, his ultimate alone is in need of a pretty massive rework, but he'll almost for sure keep the iconic like ball rolling kind of stuff. And as a whole, I would be pretty excited to see what Riot does with a rework for Rammus in the future for sure. And there's also Skarner as well. So after the Juggernaut update, everyone who was affected seemed to shine out pretty well, except for two characters, one being Mordekaiser, of course, who already has a rework in development now, and the other being Skarner. It's not to say he was exactly weak, you know, he was pretty strong for quite some time after the rework. I mean, so was Mordekaiser too. But the thing is that the design choices that were made were just not really great for the long-term health of his character, and after nerf after nerf after nerf of his, you know, bad mechanics shining through, it just leaves him in a rough spot. It's cool that Riot experimented with these crystals and all sorts of cool stuff, but now he's left in a spot where he definitely has a lot of room for improvement. He'll probably definitely still keep his ultimate, you know, that's a really iconic thing for him, and his basic abilities will probably still be kind of similar. I don't see them like doing a total redesign for Skarner, but just like a nice bunch of updates and tweaks and maybe changing a couple abilities a little bit or something could be pretty interesting. Volibear is another champion that was listed, and it definitely comes as no surprise. He's kind of in a similar state to Dr. Mundo and Cho'Gath, where he's just kind of outdated, even though he's not particularly that bad. You know, Volibear as a character has got a lot going on, and he's kind of stuck in a spot where he just doesn't have a clear focus. You know, he doesn't really have a theme in a sense. I guess he's like this badass lightning themed bear, sort of, I guess. But he's kind of got a whole bunch of conflicting things going on, and there's a lot of possibilities that could be a lot cooler if they just kind of focus on one thing. I think it was mentioned that he's in a similar spot to Swain, where he has like a bunch of different things going on in his kit, and they're all pretty cool individually, but combined together it's just like too much, and hopefully we could see his theme really shine after a rework for him. Now next up we actually have Shaco. Now this one is particularly interesting that he's on this list. Shaco in particular is very interesting as a character because he's actually had reworks attempted and canceled for him more than once, I believe. I think it's just twice though. And he's kind of in a state where Urgot was before he finally received his rework, where Riot's just been trying really hard to actually rework him, and they know he has problems, but they just can't come up with a redesign that they're satisfied with, and as a result they just keep canceling it and iceboxing it. It's like, okay, we'll come back to it later. And Riot specifically has mentioned that they are being very particular with this Shaco rework because they know that Shaco mains, people who play Shaco, they are in love with the character, and there's no champion in League of Legends like Shaco. You know, there's no playstyle that's similar, and they really want to make sure that whatever rework they give Shaco, it's going to do those Shaco mains justice. So they're just being really particular with this one, and it's something that, you know, could maybe just be the next rework, or maybe it might not happen for a while. It's really just going to depend on if Riot can figure something out, but it's one that they've definitely been trying, and we'll have to see how it works out in the future. Now next up we have Oder. Now fun fact, Oder was actually a character that was intended to be part of the Juggernaut update way back in the day when the Garen, Mordekaiser, etc. updates released, but they couldn't really find something that they were satisfied with, and so they canceled it and just released the Juggernaut update with 6 reworks instead of 7. Now I'm not actually too sure what Riot has planned for Oder specifically because it's been a long time since the Juggernaut update, so their intentions for his rework probably will have changed since then. I would say they'll probably just try to push big on his overall theme, and he's always been kind of in this weird spot where his Tiger form and Phoenix form have like conflicting playstyles, and you know, if you go heavy on one, the other one is like almost useless in a sense, and you're left playing a character with like 3 abilities. It's kind of just like a weird clunky design for him as a character. It's not necessarily bad though, don't get me wrong, but yeah, his rework definitely has a lot of potential, and it could be a really cool one if it's done right, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. And just a really brief one here I wanted to touch on at the end. So I did actually make a video about a Quinn rework a while back, and at the time I thought Quinn was potentially a candidate for one of the next major reworks for League of Legends. Now Quinn's rework has actually been confirmed that she's not going to be receiving a full major rework, she's just going to be getting a minor one that might be coming out somewhat soon, at least within like the next half dozen patches or so, but it's not going to be a full rework like I originally had thought it might have been. But we'll definitely have to wait and see with this one. It's going to be pretty interesting, and Riot has said that they aren't really sure the direction they want to take her in, at least right now. And as we wrap things up, I just wanted to give a special thanks to our sponsor, Privacy.com. Protect your online purchases and get $5 for free using Privacy.com at the link in the description. Privacy makes it so that purchasing online is super simple and super fast. You actually can create a virtual card with just one click or by using their browser extension. With just one click, you can autofill your dynamic purchase info into the checkout form to make online purchases faster, easier, and much more secure than using your own credit card on websites. And it's 100% free. And since they help you use virtual cards for your purchases instead of your own credit card information, you won't have to worry about forgetting to cancel a subscription from a free trial, or perhaps being billed without your consent from random websites online, or just giving out your information to sketchy websites in general. As for Privacy.com, their security is top-notch. It's upheld to actually the same standards as your bank, and they use military-grade encryption to hold any and all sensitive information. And the best part is it's completely free to use. If you sign up at the link in the description, you'll get $5 from them to spend on your first online purchase. Since it can be used for really any online purchase, that's literally $5 for free. Go to privacy.com/Gaming Curios or use the link in the description and sign up today. Anyway, that's actually just about going to wrap up our video for today. It was definitely a little bit of a longer one, but let us know in the comments which rework you're maybe the most excited for. I particularly am probably the most excited for Fiddlesticks. I think that one's definitely going to be really interesting. If you enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this one in the future. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.